What's up, everybody? My name is Kenny, and today on this video, we are going to talk about which banks pull from which credit bureaus. So if you do not know already, different banks are going to use different credit bureaus. Now, here in Canada, we only have two credit bureaus. So the first being TransUnion and the second being Equifax. TransUnion is actually located in Burlington, Ontario, and Equifax is located here in Montreal, Quebec. Now, these two companies do not communicate with each other. You're going to also notice that you have different information reporting between the two, right? So, one of the biggest giveaways to the fact that different banks pull from different credit bureaus is that if you were to check your credit report for TransUnion versus Equifax, you're going to see that you may have different inquiries between the two, right? So, for example, we know that Scotiabank is going to pull directly from TransUnion. So, when I go into Scotiabank and I apply for, let's say, a credit card, when they pull my credit report, it's going to be actually my TransUnion information that they see, and they're going to make that final decision or the final processing decision based off of my TransUnion credit report. Okay. Now, you can leverage this to your benefit if you have a credit bureau that's doing a lot better than the other. Again, because these two companies do not communicate with each other, you may have negative information on one, but positive and a clean slate on the other. So a lot of time when I'm doing my consultation calls with my clients and I'm helping them with their credit, they may have, for example, let's say a collection account over on TransUnion, but they don't have a collection account on Equifax. So then I know that, hey, you have a 680 plus on Equifax, no collection accounts, no charge-off accounts, then I can recommend these banks to you, right? So for example, there's Desjardins, there's TD, there's BMO. These institutions pull from Equifax. And it's actually a big myth that not many banks use TransUnion. There's a bunch of banks that use TransUnion, from the top five in Canada to the credit unions within your province. A lot of institutions use TransUnion. So again, the first thing you're going to need to do is just get access to your credit report. I think any video that I make, the first step is always going to be to get access to your credit report. You'd be surprised how many people don't actually have access to their TransUnion or Equifax account. Now, for whatever reason, you don't want to pay that monthly fee to TransUnion and Equifax, then there are free platforms that you can use so that you can monitor your credit. That first one is going to be Credit Karma. Credit Karma is pulling that information directly from TransUnion. By the way, it's a soft pull, so it's not hurting your credit. And then Borrowwell is going to be pulling directly from Equifax. Okay, and again, that's a soft pull, so it's not having a negative impact on your credit. So you can use these free platforms to monitor your credit. Now, yes, you're going to be advertised credit cards, but I think that's a pretty decent trade-off than having to pay $30 a month to these businesses such as Equifax and TransUnion. So once you get access to your credit report, then you just need to just straight up look at your credit score. Do not be afraid. So many people are afraid to look at their credit score and kind of face reality. But as long as you're above a 680, this is a conservative score. A 680, no public records such as a consumer proposal, a bankruptcy, collection accounts, judgments, things like this. We just want to make sure that that information is reporting on our credit report. Then we are good to apply for a product. Now, going back to my previous scenario, let's just say that I had an Equifax account let's just say I had an Equifax account that is clean, but my TransUnion has a collection. Then all I need to do next is say, okay, I have a 680. I don't have any public records. I'm going to go to TD. I'm going to go to TD and I'm going to establish my relationship with them. And the first thing I'm going to do, I'm not going to go in knocking down the door asking for 50K in credit. If you believe you can do that because you have experience doing it, then that's great. But me myself, I'm always going to take the conservative approach that's going to allow my clients to see success. So typically, the first type of card that I'm going to try to get my clients when they're trying to establish a relationship with a bank is any kind of cashback credit card that has a $0 annual fee. The reason for this is because a $0 annual fee cashback credit card The income requirements are fairly low. Typically, they'll want you to at least be making around $15,000 annually, which that's way below the minimum income throughout Canada. So that's something that pretty much everyone I work with can obtain, right? And again, this isn't just what you're making as an individual, this is your household income. So even if you're not working, let's say you're 18 and you live with your parents, you can pretty much use that household income that they have by asking them, right? Say, hey, mom, hey, dad, how much money do you make on an annual basis? And you can use that on your application to get approved for your first credit card, right? So let's just say you start off with that $0 annual fee, and then because your Equifax score is so great, TD is going to approve that application based off of all of that information that you provided them with. So the first thing that's going to get your foot in the door is your credit score. The second thing is the income that the household makes, right? So a lot of people kind of overlook that, but your income is also just as important because you could have a 900 credit score, but if your household income is zero, you're not getting approved. Okay, so again, TD, BMO, these are the type of places that leverage Equifax. Now, typically, if the goal for you is to get a mortgage, most mortgage brokers are pulling from Equifax. So that's why it's so important to understand what is the goal or what are you trying to accomplish, right? So if you're trying to get a house, then you need to know or you need to focus and lock in on your Equifax credit report and get that to a 680 no public records. That way you have a really high chance of being approved for that mortgage, right? Now, this isn't a real estate video. I'm not going to go deep down into that rabbit hole. But again, the safest thing to do for yourself is just to get to a 680. Now, the reason why it's important to leverage one than the other is because let's say you're currently disputing the collection accounts over on your TransUnion, right? So while I'm disputing those collection accounts over on TransUnion, I am getting approved for credit cards with my Equifax that are also going to report over to my TransUnion, which helps my credit score, right? And what you're doing is basically you're building this pending credit that you don't have yet on your TransUnion. Because what's happening every month that the payments report on your TD credit card is going to build potential within your credit score. So when those collection accounts get removed off of your credit report, your credit score is going to be that much higher, right? Because again, you're making on-time payments every month, or hopefully you're making on-time payments every month. Now, again, eventually you're going to hit a ceiling with that TransUnion credit score, and that's because the collection accounts are there. But as soon as those collection accounts are removed, then you're going to notice a huge spike in your credit score. So again, on-time payments every month and then lowering your utilization with that TD credit card. Now, I'm a firm believer that if you do not have a budget in place, you should not have a credit card anyway. So when you have that budget, you're not going to be overutilized on your credit cards, and you shouldn't be having any late payments, right? So that's pretty much the blueprint. Now, as far as TransUnion banks that that are banks that pull from TransUnion. Sorry, as far as TransUnion banks, we have CIBC, which is very business friendly, very personal friendly. We have Amex. Amex is great for travel. And then we have Scotiabank. Scotiabank, they do a lot of auto lending. I have seen a lot of Scotia loans on credit reports. Scotia is very big in auto lending. Okay. And then we have Van City if you live in Vancouver, and there are other credit unions that may pull from TransUnion. But understand this information is readily available, right? The other biggest tells of which bank uses which credit bureau is if you were to log into your banking app, and there's always an option for you to check your credit score, right? So if I log into my CIBC banking app and I check my credit score, it is going to give me my TransUnion credit score, which in most situations tells me that, hey, this is the credit bureau that the bank uses. If I log into my Scotia app, Scotia is going to give me my TransUnion credit score, which tells me that they use TransUnion to approve those applications. Now, this isn't always one of one, right? The ratio isn't always one of one, but in most situations, we can use this to figure out which credit bureau that bank is using. So Desjardins, which is a big credit union here in Montreal, but they also operate in Ontario. If you pull your credit report from them, you're going to see your Equifax score. Okay, So again, it's always important to understand what your scores are. Um, always leverage the better score to get a proof of credit. Start building relationships with institutions by starting out with a $0 annual fee cashback credit card. Build a relationship, increase the credit limits of those credit cards, and then move up to higher tier credit cards as you get more comfortable with that bank and their products. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It would be very helpful. If you have any needs or helps with your credit, don't know where to go, send me an email at info@kennyjohnsonuniversity.com. Until then, peace.